You can't give yourself the leeway of the or never, or you'll never do it. That's how it works. You have to choose to do the physical actions before your brain can catch up. Hey guys, happy Vlogmas. Welcome back. If you are in fact coming back, if you're new, welcome to the channel. I'm Becca. We're talking about eating disorder recovery. And today I kind of just wanted to talk about my little intro card screen that says it's now or never, and then backspace is the never and just says it's now, period. We're going to talk about why that is so important and why I've started to use that at the beginning of all of the videos. So yesterday when my husband Roger got home, he came into the bedroom and I think he could tell that something was just off with me. I was not feeling great. And he just asked me, he's like, hey, how are you doing? How are you feeling? What's going on? And I couldn't give him an answer because I knew I felt bad, but I couldn't think of the words at the time to really describe why or even the exact emotions that I was feeling. And since I couldn't pinpoint one specific trigger, we just kind of went on along our evening and he went into the living room to do his thing. I actually had a call with my coach last night, so I was kind of resting before that. But a few minutes after that, I sent him a text, and that text simply said, I also hate myself and hate this pump and hate this freaking formula, and weight gain is so unnecessary. So that's what I was feeling like last night. I was just feeling like all of this is so unnecessary. And that's a word that's come up a lot recently, that all of this just feels unnecessary, feels like stuff I don't need to do. And I know that that's a lie. So I just wanted to clarify that. So I sent him that text and he came in the bedroom and he said, okay, well, is there anything I can do to help? And I was honest with him. I said, no, honestly, there's not. All I want to do right now is to go outside and start walking or to start pacing in the bedroom. I was just feeling so uncomfortable in my body. I was dealing with so much emotional and physical discomfort and just badness that I couldn't even identify like an emotion and put a name to it. I just felt horrible. It was one of the hardest days that I've had in the past 2 weeks. And honestly, the urges to get up and start walking around or pacing in the house or even going outside even though it was freezing cold, those urges to get in that compulsive lower level movement were really strong. Now, I did not do that at the time, so that's still a win, but it doesn't mean that I didn't want to. I was so aware of how my body felt. I was aware of how it's changed even just over the past 2 weeks because it's been a significant change, maybe not to other people, but I can feel it and I can see it. And obviously I know my own view of my body is also distorted. That's part of all of this. However, there have objectively been changes. I can literally quantify them. And I was feeling very just uncomfortably aware of all of that. I felt like I just wanted to wrap myself up in my comforter, hide under it, and just hide away from life, honestly. I did not want to do any of this anymore. However, I still stayed hooked up to my rocket fuel, even though everything in me wanted to unhook from it. And if you're not familiar, my rocket fuel is my Kate Farms formula that I have to hook up to every day. Obviously, I'm hooked up to it right now. All good things. And since I noticed that I made myself stay hooked up to it even when every fiber of my being wanted to just give in and turn off the pump and completely unhook from it from the rest of the night even, I didn't. And that's why we're talking about this topic today. So let's talk about the phrase, it's now or never first. Technically, yeah, that's true. However, leaving the or never on there then also leaves you with some leeway to kind of make excuses. Even if you don't intend to, it gives you that kind of almost permission that, okay, if the or never's there, then I can make whatever excuses I want at any point if I feel too overwhelmed to do any of this. And that's simply not the case. You can't give yourself that leeway of, okay, well, it's now or it's never, so I can just kind of engage in this one behavior, or I can indulge this one urge or this one compulsion. No, you can't give yourself the leeway of the or never, or you'll never do it. So it's now, period. That's why the graphic is like it is. I kind of mentioned this in the video I posted in September explaining my relapse and the change of direction for the channel. But one reason it has to be right now is because if I want to live a life of freedom, which I do, and I hope you do too, I'm gonna have to go through this whole process at some point. I personally would rather do it all now, deal with the emotional and physical discomfort, deal with even the spirals of self-deprecation and self-hatred and just not feeling like I want to do any of this, just wanting to run away from everything recovery related, because I'd rather this whole thing be on my terms where I'm actively choosing to sit with these horrible feelings of emotional and physical discomfort, knowing that sitting with them, even if I can't name them, even if I can't actively process them in the moment, the only way that I will ever get to the other side and to freedom is to just endure and go through this right now, because it has to be done at some point, and I don't want to miss out on any more of my life. So again, it's now or never, it's just now. Because again, I know doing this now is the only way to reach freedom later. The only way to get past this and get out of all of this horrible feeling like crap all the time is to sit with it and to get through it. And that just requires allowing yourself to feel like crap, honestly. Just gonna call it like it is. And here's one of the hardest parts about recovery, especially when you're still in the beginning stages, but honestly throughout the whole process. You have to make an active choice to commit to doing the hard, really hard recovery-oriented actions long before you actually feel like doing them. In a virtual workshop that I attended recently, which was all about limiting beliefs in recovery, and it was awesome, by the way, one thing that we discussed a lot was how actions are actually the driving force behind change. So action begets change. It's not that you necessarily feel like you want to change and you change and that then therefore changes your actions. No. When you're in recovery, you have to take the hard actions. You have to commit ahead of time and say, okay, here's exactly what I'm going to do step by step, no matter what I feel like in the moment when it happens, because chances are when you're faced with that particular obstacle, your motivation is going to go down, and the only way you're going to be able to follow through is if you make that commitment ahead of time and say, listen, I'm making this recovery-oriented choice. I don't feel like it right now, but I know that long term, it's the only way to get to freedom. I'm going to feel like crap, but this anxiety, this overwhelm, this just feeling like crap, this suckiness will eventually pass. Even if I can't name it and process it in this moment, it will still eventually pass. And it's the only way to ever get to a point where I'm living that life of freedom. I keep coming back to freedom and also joy, because joy is one thing that over the past week, I've had a few moments where I have had laughter that has come from deep inside my soul, which has not happened since June, May, March, earlier this year. Ow, I just hit my hand on the corner of my dresser. Oh, that hurt. Real life. Anyway, you can't just want to change, and you can't just wait until you feel like changing or till you feel like you're ready, because honestly, you are never going to feel ready for recovery because your ED will never let you feel ready. It will always tell you you're not sick enough. It will always tell you you don't deserve recovery. It will always convince you that there's a reason you don't need to take this next step in recovery, or you don't need to follow through with this part of your plan. And all of those are just lies. So you have to actively choose and actively commit ahead of time to doing the exact opposite of what your ED voice in your brain is telling you to do in any given moment, which is a lot easier said than done, but it doesn't change the fact that it's still a requirement for the process, because your brain and the healing in your brain, the neural rewiring in your brain, will not be able to take place and take hold until you have committed and followed through on all of the physical actions and have done some more of the physical brain restoration process. I'm not saying that what you're feeling in the moment, that what the ED voice is telling you, what it's causing you to feel, is not a real thing that you are experiencing. It's obviously very real, which is why I couldn't name it last night, but I sure as heck was feeling that just general sense of suckiness and oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, I'm gonna crawl out of my skin right now. I don't want to do this anymore. So you literally have to make a consistent choice to do the actions of recovery, despite the fact that your brain is screaming at you the whole time, knowing that you've committed to it ahead of time, knowing that your brain's going to scream to you in the moment. That was a lot of back and forth, but I hope you get it. Because honestly, especially if you've been in this battle a long time, you have just conditioned your brain for so long to immediately revert back to ED behaviors or thoughts or whatever you've done for years and years that honestly hasn't worked. Otherwise, you wouldn't be in the position where you're like, oh crap, I have to choose recovery now because life really sucks with an eating disorder. And life sucks with an eating disorder. Just saying. And actively choosing to continue to go against all of those urges is literally the only way that our brains will ever catch up to our bodies and the physical recovery work that we're doing. Almost said weight restoration, but again, I like to phrase that as brain restoration. So brain restoration, even though your brain still has to take time to catch up. Because again, the anxiety, the fear, the discomfort, they will all eventually pass, even though it does not feel like it in the moment. And I'm saying that to you knowing that last night, it did not feel like it was going to pass. And I was telling myself like, oh my gosh, the only way to get rid of this feeling is to get up and just start pacing around the bedroom. But I didn't do that. Instead, I stayed hooked up to my rocket fuel, which was doing the exact opposite of what my brain was screaming at me to do. And Roger came in and we turned on Schitt's Creek and watched an episode before I had my session with my coach and laughed and kind of got me out of that just horribly negative headspace. And it's not that that fixed it in the moment, but it was a distraction that was useful at the time. So if all you have is a funny sitcom to distract you, use it. Also, we absolutely cannot afford to say things like, I'll recover once I reach X point, or when Y happens, I'll I'll feel ready to recover and I'll do it then. Again, you're never going to feel ready. No one ever does feel ready when they start because that's how it works. You have to choose to do the physical actions before your brain can catch up. So you absolutely have no choice but to eliminate the contingencies, meaning you can't make your recovery contingent on how you feel in the moment. And as with everything I say, I am saying all of this as much to myself as anyone else because I will watch this video when I'm editing it and probably on days when I need to know that I have said these reminders at some point. And again, coming back to it's now or never, this has to be my decision right now because I don't want to leave any leeway or wiggle room for me to even inadvertently make excuses to run back to my eating disorder. Because that's losing out on life, that's losing out on joy, that's losing out on personality, that's losing out on everything we know that the eating disorder steals from us. And it's not just, it's now or never. Again, it's now. It has to be now because I am utterly exhausted from this life of chaos and disorder. And as difficult as this whole process has already been, and I'm literally still in the very beginning stages of it, I do not want to miss out on any more of my life because it is too wonderful and so much of a gift and has so much to offer. And I'm just not okay with sacrificing any of my joy anymore. So it's going to take a long time. I know that. And it's going to take a lot of pushing through those horrible feelings or just, sitting with them until they eventually pass, no matter how long it takes. But I want to ask you one question. If you want to actually live a life of freedom, what's stopping you from doing it now? Because if not now, then when? If not now, when? When are you going to do it? When are you going to decide, okay, enough is enough? I know I'm going to have to just take action and do the things I don't feel like doing anyway. Why not do it now? If not now, when? It's not now or never. It's now. So I hope today or whenever you're watching this, you're able to take that next step and embrace the now. See you in the next one.